3 hours later, Karen sat across from Marcus Chen in the lawyer's cramped office, still wearing her wrinkled court attire. Her bail had been posted, by who she didn't know, and she was free pending her contempt hearing. The good news, Marcus said, avoiding eye contact, is that Judge Martinez is known for being fair. The bad news is that you insulted him in open court and showed zero remorse. I didn't actually call him a nobody, Karen protested weakly. Karen, you might as well have. The entire courtroom heard what you almost said. Marcus rubbed his temples. Look, I've been practicing law for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like what happened today. We need to discuss damage control. Before Karen could respond, the office door opened and a familiar figure walked in. David Henderson, the man whose purple mailbox had started this entire mess, stood in the doorway holding 2 cups of coffee. Mr. Henderson, Marcus jumped up. I don't think this is appropriate. It's okay, David said, setting 1 coffee cup in front of Karen. I asked if I could speak with Mrs. Whitmore. Your secretary said it was fine. Karen stared at the coffee like it might be poisoned. Why? David settled into the chair next to her, and she noticed for the first time how tired he looked. Because, believe it or not, I understand what you're going through. You understand? Karen's voice cracked. You understand having your entire life fall apart over a stupid mailbox. I understand being so invested in being right that you forget to be human. David took a sip of his coffee. I used to be a middle school principal, spent 20 years enforcing rules, maintaining order, never backing down from a fight. Nearly lost my wife and kids because I couldn't tell the difference between leading and controlling. Karen felt tears threatening for the first time all day. Then why didn't you just change the mailbox? Because you never asked me to. You demanded it. David's voice was gentle but firm. You sent violation notices, threatened fines, sicked lawyers on us, but you never once knocked on my door and said, hey, that purple mailbox really bothers me. Would you consider changing it? The simplicity of it hit Karen like a slap. In all her months of legal maneuvering and rule citing, she'd never once had a normal conversation with the Hendersons about the mailbox. Would you have changed it? She asked quietly. Probably. My wife painted it purple because it was her favorite color, and she'd just been diagnosed with breast cancer. She wanted something bright and cheerful to look at every day. David's voice caught slightly. But if our neighbor had explained that it was causing problems, we would have found another way to make her happy. Karen closed her eyes, feeling the full weight of her stupidity. She has cancer? Had. She's in remission now. Thank God. But those first few months, that silly purple mailbox was one of the few things that made her smile. David leaned forward. Karen, I'm not telling you this to make you feel worse. I'm telling you because I think you've forgotten something important. What's that? We're all just people trying to get through life. Your neighbors aren't your enemies. The HOI isn't your kingdom. It's just a bunch of folks trying to maintain their property values and get along. Marcus cleared his throat. This is all very touching, but we still have the contempt charge to deal with. Actually, David said, reaching into his jacket, I have a proposal. He pulled out a folded document. It's a letter I wrote to Judge Martinez. I'm asking him to consider community service instead of jail time. Specifically, I'm requesting that Karen spend 40 hours helping at the community center where my wife volunteers. Karen stared at the letter, unable to process this kindness. Why would you do that? Because everyone deserves a second chance, and because I think you could be a good person if you stop trying so hard to be a perfect one. David stood up. The choice is yours, Karen. You can keep fighting the world, or you can try joining it. As David reached the door, Karen found her voice. Mr. Henderson, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about everything. About your wife, about the mailbox, about all of it. He turned back with a small smile. I know you are. The question is, what are you going to do about it? After he left, Karen sat in the silence of Marcus's office, holding the letter that might save her from jail. For the first time in months, she wasn't thinking about rules or violations or maintaining order. She was thinking about a woman painting a mailbox purple because it made her happy during the scariest time of her life. And Karen wondered, When was the last time she'd done something simply because it made someone happy? The answer, she realized with a chill, was that she honestly couldn't remember. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to start. Karen's stomach dropped when she saw who was waiting in the visitor's room. Not Marcus, not her husband Richard, but her estranged sister Linda, whom she hadn't spoken to in 3 years after a bitter HOA dispute that had torn their family apart. Well, well, Linda said, settling into the plastic chair across from Karen, the queen of Willow Creek Estates, dethroned by her own mouth. Linda, I don't need you. Shut up, Karen. Linda's voice was sharp but not unkind. For once in your life, just shut up and listen. Karen's mouth snapped closed, more from shock than obedience. Linda had always been the quiet one, the peacemaker, the one who apologized even when she wasn't wrong. Do you know what happened after you were dragged out of that courtroom? Linda continued. The Hendersons' lawyer stood up and announced they were dropping all their counterclaims. They could have sued you for harassment, for legal fees, for emotional distress. But they said they just wanted to go home to their purple mailbox and live in peace. Karen felt something twist in her chest. They dropped the charges? Not charges, Karen. Civil suits. You're still facing contempt of court, and the judge was not happy. Linda leaned forward. But here's the thing that really gets me. Do you even remember why you started this war? The mailbox violates Section 4.7 of the HOA Covenant. No. Linda's voice cut through Karen's recitation like a blade. I mean, really. Why did you care so much about a purple mailbox that you destroyed your reputation, your marriage, and your family over it? Karen opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. The truth was, she couldn't remember anymore. It had started with a simple violation notice, then escalated when the Hendersons politely refused to change it. Then it became about respect, about authority, about showing everyone in Willow Creek Estates that rules mattered. Richard's filing for divorce, Linda said quietly. He's been staying at his brother's place for 2 weeks. He said he can't watch you destroy yourself anymore. The words hit Karen like a physical blow. Her perfect life, her perfect marriage, her perfect neighborhood, all crumbling because of a purple mailbox. And the HOA board voted you out last night, Linda continued. Emergency session. Janet Morrison is the new president. She's already sent a letter to every homeowner apologizing for your behavior and promising a new era of reasonable governance. Karen's hands trembled as she processed this information. Everything she'd built, everything she'd fought for, gone in a single evening. They can't do that. I'm elected until next year. Check your bylaws, Karen. Section 12.3 allows for removal of officers who bring disrepute to the organization. Linda's smile was sad. You always were better at enforcing rules than reading them. The visiting room fell silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights. Karen stared at her hands, noting for the first time how her perfectly manicured nails were now chipped and broken. Why are you here? Karen finally whispered. Because despite everything, you're still my sister. And because Mom would have wanted me to try. Linda reached across the table and touched Karen's hand. But this is your last chance, Karen. When you get out of here, you can keep being the bitter woman who destroyed her life over a mailbox, or you can try to become someone worth forgiving. As Linda stood to leave, Karen felt a desperate panic rising in her chest. Wait, what am I supposed to do? I don't know how to be anyone else. Linda paused at the door. Start by apologizing, really apologizing. To Richard, to the Hendersons, to everyone whose life you've made miserable. And then figure out who Karen Whitmore is when she's not wielding an HOA rulebook like a weapon. The door closed with a soft click, leaving Karen alone with the wreckage of her choices and the terrifying prospect of rebuilding from nothing. Your Honor, this is absolutely ridiculous. Karen Whitmore's voice cracked like a whip through the hushed courtroom, her perfectly manicured finger jabbing accusingly at the judge's bench. I am the president of Willow Creek Estates HOA, and I will not be lectured by some. Mrs. Whitmore, you will sit down immediately. Judge Martinez interrupted, his dark eyes flashing with barely contained fury. But Karen was already too far gone, her face flushed crimson beneath her meticulously applied foundation. 6 months of legal battles had led to this moment, and she refused to back down now. The Hendersons' hideous purple mailbox had become her white whale, and she dragged half the neighborhood into court to prove her point. Somewhat, Mrs. Whitmore. The judge's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Finish that sentence. The courtroom fell silent. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air, suddenly realizing she'd been about to call a sitting judge some nobody. Her lawyer, Marcus Chen, was frantically shaking his head, his face pale with horror. I meant, Karen stammered, but the damage was done. Judge Martinez's gavel came down with the force of thunder. Mrs. Whitmore, you are hereby found in contempt of court. Bailiff, please escort the defendant to holding. What? No, you can't do this to me. Karen shrieked as the bailiff approached. I have a hair appointment at 3. I'm hosting the HOA meeting tonight. As the handcuffs clicked around her wrists, Karen caught sight of the Hendersons sitting in the gallery. Mr. Henderson was barely containing his laughter while his wife whispered something to their attorney. The same attorney who'd been trying to settle this mailbox dispute for months, while Karen insisted on total victory. This is harassment. Karen continued her tirade as she was led away. I'll have your job for this. I know the mayor. I know the governor. The courtroom erupted in murmurs as the door slammed shut behind her. Marcus Chen buried his face in his hands, knowing his legal career had just taken a significant hit. The Hendersons' purple mailbox case had just become the easiest win of their lawyer's career. In the holding cell, Karen sat on the metal bench, her designer suit wrinkled, and her carefully styled hair beginning to frizz. For the first time in years, she was completely powerless. No HOA bylaws to cite, no neighbors to intimidate, no husband's connections to leverage. Just her and the consequences of her actions. The reality began to sink in as she stared at the concrete walls. She'd just committed contempt of court over a mailbox that, if she was being honest, wasn't even that bad. But she'd made it her crusade, her hill to die on, and now she was literally in jail because of it. Her phone was buzzing incessantly in the property bag, probably Marcus trying to figure out how to salvage this disaster. But Karen couldn't help but wonder, how had she gotten here? When had enforcing HOA rules become more important than basic human decency? The metal door clanged open, and a guard appeared. Whitmore, you've got a visitor.